Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life.
When I introduce myself, I tell them, my name is Chris Price. I'm a pharmaceutical executive by day, but I'm a real estate investor by night. And the story goes, I've been in pharma or in the broader life science industry for over 20 years, working in various different roles and function, from sales operations to medical affairs operations and working with medical science liaisons to marketing operations, where I spend a lot of my time right now leading functions around content excellence and doing all sorts of great projects and doing different things that make an impact on patients. But along my journey, what took place is that I actually started to get more and more involved and interested in how can I build and protect my wealth as a hardworking professional. Like many people like you and many people in your audience, we work hard for our money. And while we're working and making an impact on the lives of patients, we also need to be paying attention to how do we make sure that we can set up ourselves and our families for generational wealth as well. And along that journey, my wife and I in particular, we started to get exposed to different things. At me, for example, I started to really gain an interest in real estate investing. It kind of came a little bit happenstance. I was one of those people who, we were starting a family, and the house that we had was going to be, too small for us to raise that family. And so we started to take a little bit of a picture into, hey, we need to be moving up. But when we moved up out of that smaller condo that we were in, we moved into our single family home, we actually ended up holding on to that condo, and we became what they call accidental landlords. But something cool happened in that process, where essentially as we were renting it out, we were getting a little cash flow after all the expenses were paid. And we're like, okay, this is something, but we didn't really know much about it. Fast forward years later, think about things that were transformative throughout our careers, right? Things like the great financial crisis in 2008, the European debt crisis in 2013, all of those things, watching my 401k and all of our investments in the stock market go through that roller coaster ride was something that was very, let's just say we weren't necessarily interested in that, and we didn't have the control that we wanted to over our future. But we then started to realize and recognize that, hey, this little condo that we have is kicking off a few $100 of cash flow every month. What if we got smart about that and built a strategy around that? And that's sort of where the real focus around building our interest in real estate investing and what we're doing today has gotten us. So I tell people that I do both, and that's basically what I'm up to today.
Okay, so as a pharmaceutical sales professional, what is your title and what is your responsibility now?
So today in my pharmaceutical role, I work actually in the marketing operations function for a top 15 pharmaceutical company, privately held pharmaceutical company in the world. And my role is focused around content excellence. So many people in our industry, in the broader life sciences industry, whether that's in medical sales or in pharmaceutical sales, are familiar with the fact that the content that you use to communicate with your customers, the physicians, the support staff, nurses, PAs, et cetera, that content has to go through a review and approval process. I'm responsible for that review and approval process for the therapeutic area vertical that I'm responsible for, and making sure that content, whether that is the the commercials that we all see on television to the advertisements that our representatives have in their on their iPads today, what used to be the visual aid that they were carrying once upon a time, all those things, the flashcards that patients see, consumer brochures, you name it, all of that stuff needs to make sure that it is consistent with the regulations, that it is legal, and that it's medically accurate. And so, and from an operational standpoint, that it's meeting all of our operational rules. And so that's what I'm responsible for in my day job as in my career as a pharmaceutical executive. And what I am super passionate about those things. And I should say that, of course, and nothing that I say today is official, content from the company that I represent, or from the company that I work for. I'm just here sharing my own personal views and opinions.
So you say, so you're in compliance then, or you're actually creating the marketing content?
No, I'm in operations actually. So I'm in operations. There's an operations function that is responsible for facilitating this process. So we work with marketing, we work with our sales teams to get this content out to them. And then of course we work with all the other functions to help make this happen. So we work with regulatory compliance, we work with legal, we work with the medical experts internally to make sure that all that content that goes through that ultimately ends out out in the field goes through the review and approval process to make sure that it's medically accurate, it's meeting our laws and regulations, and that it's compliant.
Okay, so then take us back to when you were a representative, or did you start as a representative?
I started actually in the sales operations team, supporting our representatives. So working on all of the systems, setting up the meetings, all of those things. That's really where I started and cut my teeth in support of all of those functions, and how and it's been a journey from an operational perspective, working on that side of the house and with our field force to be able to support them.
I want to go back to where you started. So how did you take us back to college? You graduated in what? And you stepped into what space?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I went to Marist College, which interestingly recently made an announcement that they're changing their name to Marist University. It's a small liberal arts school in upstate New York, in Poughkeepsie, New York, as a matter of fact. And I was recruited there to play football, and Division I football. And so I went there. I had a great time at Marist, where I was a standout student athlete. I was an All-American in my senior year. And in fact, Sam, what I'll tell you is that I with my dream as a kid, like many kid, was to go out and play pro football. And I gave that a shot, but all the while I was in my undergraduate, I actually was doing all of my internships at the drug company that I work for today, in fact. And I got a chance to get exposed to so many different things. So when my football career was over, I actually was able to make inroads there and get brought on as a contracted employee. I started out as a temp working in our medical organization, working with our
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So wait a minute. First of all, we can't glaze over your football career.
Oh
That's
yeah.
number one.
Oh yeah.
Number two, we will step into exactly what you're doing. So take us back. D1, did you actually play pro ball, or what happened?
No, I didn't. So in fact, I did not make it to the pros. I tried out for many different teams as a part of my journey, going through and going to regional combines. And one of the things that I tell people often when I tell the story of my football dream, or my dream to play professionally, is that this experience was the best experience to find out how good I wasn't. And what I mean by that is that when you're seeing how talented you think you are, and you go out and you see some of those guys, I can assure everyone that's listening that the people that they're watching on Sundays, these are some of the most elite athletes that they'll ever see in the world. And I had that experience directly, going to some of these regional combines, going to tryouts, waiting at the end for my name to be called up, hopefully on the good side of things, that I'll be called back for practice, or to make a practice squad, or sign a free agent contract, only to be hearing my name on the bad side of things, that, hey, thank you for showing up and giving it your best, but you're not getting called back. And those were sobering moments.
Yeah, I can imagine. What position did you play?
So I was a running back in college, and a kick returner, and so that was what my focus was actually going to be on when it comes to playing pro ball. I wanted to go out and play running back. In fact, one of the things that I tell people, my two favorite football players of all time growing up as a kid, one Walter Payton, one of the greatest running backs of all time, and the other, a little bit more recent, in the early 2000s, was Marshall Faulk. And so I tried to mirror and model my game as a hybrid of those two guys. And like I said, I had such a great time playing. My senior year, as I mentioned before, I got named as an All-American. This was a great opportunity. I think it's an exclusive group for folks to be a part of. But what was cool about it is that it gave me an opportunity to then use that as a part of my resume to then, broker, these tryouts and work to make my way to the league. And while that didn't happen, it was, in the end, I'm one of those people, all things work out for a reason. It did land me in the space that I was able to start to take those steps and make a decision. Do I want to continue to pursue my athletic dreams, or do I want to start to pivot and explore other opportunities in the industry that I had been interviewing in, or excuse me, I should say, in the industries that I had the opportunity to intern in over the course of my undergraduate time, and that was the decision that I made.
Okay, so you tried out for pro. How does that work anyway? Are you like in your senior year and you're doing this, or is it after college ends, or when are you actually doing this? And then I guess I want to know, how long did that time take, and when did you finally make the decision to step into the business of medicine?
Yeah, so this is during my senior year. So imagine in your senior year, while most kids in the spring, they are getting ready for graduation, going to all the parties and doing all those things. And while I did some of that, part of my routine and preparing for trying to play professional football was actually, trying to be disciplined, eating right, trying to, continue to exercise. And one of the points of feedback that was given to me on my journey when I was coming into this space was actually, Chris, I was a little bit lighter, and if you will, from a weight perspective. So they were encouraging me to bulk up and put some pounds on. So I spent time, lifting and getting bigger and stronger. As a result of that, I got a little bit slower than what I typically was, but I got bigger and stronger, and carried that weight. And so during the spring, as prior to graduation, that was what was my focus, lifting, going to training sessions, practicing with other players that were also exploring, trying to play professional, and doing different pro days and those types of things. But that ultimately led to, after graduation and throughout the summer, me spending time going on the road and going to different regional combines. A regional combine is where some of the NFL teams in a particular region and their scouts and other staff actually host an invite session for players who didn't get drafted, who are talented, but they want to give them an opportunity to showcase their skills and all of the different things, whether that's running and passing and receiving and agility drills and strength drills. And I was invited to a couple of those sessions in the summer after I graduated, and after failing twice or three times in two different combine sessions, again, it started to become real to me that this was something that was maybe not in my cards and not likely to happen. And did I need to start thinking about going a different way with respect to my career aspirations? And that's kind of how that whole journey got started.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of. Now, did you meet someone? I remember you saying in college you were already doing internships.
Yes. Yes.
Were they sales? Were they medical sales force, like commercial internships? Were they operations internships? Were they marketing internships?
Yeah.
What kind of internship were you doing in the med tech companies?
That's great. So this is a great question because I had an opportunity to throughout my years of undergrad to explore the pharmaceutical industry from different aspects. So I actually interned 1 year in the research and development function to support some of the scientists that were doing work there. But then fast forward to my last internship, and where I really cut my teeth was in the sales training and development function and sales operations. So imagine, me in my senior year of college, or excuse me, my junior year of college going into my senior year, my internship was actually focused on all things related to, supporting the sales force, their educational materials, the meetings that they're having for POA meetings and getting ready for different product launches, and bringing them in for their different training sessions, and all of those different types of things was part of my work as an intern. And so in that time, one of the things that was really beneficial for me is that I didn't just waste my time there doing what was asked of me. I did more than what was asked of me. I went above and beyond. I spent time getting to know the people in the office and building relationships and networking, and getting exposed to other opportunities. In part, that's part of my personality, but two, I think it also was a great opportunity for me to be able to, just showcase my skills and express my interest in what was going on around there. And I think that actually helped me, I know that helped me in positioning myself. So once I was done with my football career, that, in terms of a short list of places that I would reach out to get into the workforce, this would be one of them.
What was the first role?
So in fact, before, I had an odd job while I was during my training sessions and combines throughout the summer after graduation, and when I was going through all of the different scouting combines and training. I actually, my job, I was working at a small retail store in a local town in Danbury, Connecticut, where I grew up. And in fact, after that, once I first got into my first role within the pharmaceutical industry, and what led me from that small retail position to the pharmaceutical industry was an opportunity that came up that I applied to. And it actually started with a new organization, a new function that was starting within this drug company, that was starting a new medical science liaison group. These are for those who don't know, the medical science liaison, think about them on the opposite side of sales, in that they're not selling a device or a therapeutic. They're actually selling the science behind it. And so their particular role is having scientific interactions with these external experts who are influential based on the research that they do, based on what they publish, etc. And I was working in the operational support team for them, or that's the role that I ended up taking on. And from there, started my pharmaceutical career in the operations function, supporting this new emerging group in this company, and then being able to start scaling and building my career from there.
Got it. So, okay. So you were working at that retail store. You already had the connections to pharma. I guess you heard about an opportunity to get into the sales operations.
Yep.
You took it.
Yes.
You got the job, and now you're officially a pharmaceutical sales professional.
Yes, I'm officially. In fact, I'm a pharmaceutical professional, because I'm not just working with sales. I'm also working in the medical side of the house as well. So I broaden it to not just supporting the sales force, but also supporting the other functions as well.
So how long have you been in operations versus anything else in pharmaceutical sales?
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical medtech.
Yeah. So I've been in the pharmaceutical space in total for 20 years now. And in the operations space, I've spent the majority of my career in operations in various different operational functions. As I mentioned, I've spent time in sales operations, I've spent time in medical operations, and now most recently, my career over those 20 years has led me to the marketing operations function, and what I'm doing now, as I was explaining before, around making sure that the content that our field teams have out there is meeting the needs of our customers.
Sure. And just so we're clear, your title is what exactly?
So my title at the drug company that I work for is the director of content for the therapeutic area that I support, which is ILD, or interstitial lung diseases, and respiratory. And so I'm the lead for my particular therapeutic area, and within that function there are other stakeholders, other peers I should say, that have a similar role to me, but in other therapeutic areas.
So do you have a team or do you pretty much work solo?
Yes, I actually have a team. So I have a team of individuals that report into me, that support the day-to-day activities that are required to facilitate the review and approval process and other content related activities for this particular therapeutic area. And that this is for the portfolio of brands that fall within our therapeutic area. So our team is divided out and structured in a way that provides some balance to that workload, so that they're able to help with the managing the operations of those things. And our responsibilities include everything from, like I said, facilitating the review and approval process, to focusing on different efforts around projects focused on personalized content, to be able to deliver content to the right customer at the right time, at the right time. This is something that's very much a focus of us, to all things related to launch excellence. So think about when you have a product launch, whether you're a medical sales professional on one side of the house, or you are a pharmaceutical sales professional, when you are getting ready to go out there and make calls to your customers, you need that content that's going to help to inform those customers around why your product or service is something that they should be considering to prescribe or to use in the surgery session, or to prescribe to their patients for whatever reason. And when it comes to the work that we do, all of that content has to be reviewed and approved. And so I
Right.
drive that process for my therapeutic areas.
Got it. And so you're in the home office or do you work remotely or how does it work?
Yes, so I work in the home office, and we have some folks that are in the field, but our role in particular is focused on home office activities. So the good thing is that we have a balance where we're able to do some of our role remotely, while the major on occasion we are in office to make sure that we have those moments that matter with our colleagues internally.
All right, so let's jump to boost my capital. And what I really want to get into is so you're a pharmaceutical industry professional.
That's right.
You have a full-time role. You did something that everybody does, which is secure your home for your family. You happenstance discovered on becoming a landlord. When and how did you morph that into an official business that
Yeah.
ultimately became Boost My Gap?
Yeah, so I love this question, and what I'll answer it in this way. So along my journey of growing up in the pharmaceutical industry, I spent time doing what many of us do in pharmaceutical, in the broader life sciences space, and in medical sales, et cetera. I got advanced degrees. I have a MBA in healthcare management. I have I have my master's in applied project management. I'm a Lean Six Sigma green belt. And all of those things, and along those times, were all things that I wanted to invest in myself from a professional and a formal perspective, to make sure that I can continue to not only demonstrate in the work that I was doing, that I was qualified to continue to take on positions of growing responsibility within my work, I also wanted to be able to continue to bolster my skill sets and my expertise in the operational space that I was in. And so I invested in myself in all of those things. But one of the things that I tell people that is there's a guy named Jim Rohn who I came across in my journey here, and he talks about the idea of a formal education being something that will help make us a living, but a self-education, investing in ourselves. For the people who are listening to this podcast, they are investing in themselves. Those types of things will help make you a fortune. And I started to do that. And so when I was learning about when we became those accidental landlords, I didn't really think much about it until a few years later, until we had those very impressionable experiences with these different financial events that were happening that we didn't have control over. And we wanted to have more control over our financial future.
So
And,
let's get more specific.
yeah.
So what was happening? Take us there.
Yeah,
What was really
what was
going on?
specifically happening? This is a great question. What was specifically happening was, me watching my, what I was told, and like many of us are told, is that the way that you have to get ahead is, hey, you go to school, you get a good job, and you get a good job with benefits, and hey, take advantage of that 401k. And these are all the things that were in my mind. I was wired that these are the only ways to wealth building. And until I learned specifically that this isn't the case. And I learned this because I was watching my 401k look like a heart rate monitor. When, one week I would look at it and things looked like they were performing well, where the next day or the next week I'm looking at it and things are tanking. And when it comes to being able to support our financial future and having more stability and control around those things, I wanted to make sure that I can focus on doing something that I could have more influence and control over. And that's where the real estate started to come in. I started to look at different ways in which people build and protect their wealth. It's not a secret that in the United States, especially, many people, real estate is one of the there are a few key ways that people build wealth, right? It is you start a business and you build that business, or you invest in real estate. Some people may or may not get wealthy in the stock market today. I guess a lot of people talking about crypto, but I'll talk about specifically one of the most common ways that people in the U.S. have become wealthy was real estate. And from my risk tolerance perspective and my expertise and the fact that I own some real estate, some rental property already, that was the area that I chose to focus on to be able to start to build and scale my portfolio.
So I want to take it back to, first of all, I want to stay on your job. You have this job, you're doing it full time, and then life is happening.
Yes.
Life is happening because you got some property, you got to get your family to a bigger place to take care of them better, and somehow you keep this property and you decide to rent it out.
That's right.
I kind of want to know, when did you say, hey, we should buy another one and we should do this over and over and over again? What happened that even, was it a video that you watched? You talk about Jim Rohn, and I know Jim Rohn because I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan, and Jim Rohn trained Tony Robbins. So did you stumble upon a YouTube video and you said, we're going to buy another property, or, what happened to take you to a bigger interest in going this direction?
Yeah, Sam, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't a YouTube video. In fact, my first entree into this was a podcast. There's a podcast by a guy named Keith Weinhold. And Keith Weinhold was talking, he had a show called Get Rich Education. And in that show, he was talking about investing in turnkey single family rentals. And I was like, what is that? And is this something that I could start doing? And I started to research more and more. I couldn't put the podcast down in the journey of listening to the podcast where he's talking about building a rental portfolio of single family rentals. I actually also started building my plan out specifically around that, and I got the bright idea that to my wife, I said, hey, look, we already have this property and it's kicking off some cash flow here. What if we put together a plan that we could, a financial freedom plan, if you will, that we could actually, identify how many single family homes we would need to replace our earned income from our jobs. And then at that point in time, we would be financially free, because the income from those properties would cover off on all of our expenses, living expenses, and all the things that we wanted to do. And I put together that plan for around how many single family homes we needed. And what I discovered at that time was that it was going to take way too many single family homes and way too much time to be able to
How
get there.
many?
So
How many single family
yeah,
homes?
for us at the time, we're looking at somewhere along the lines of 50 single family, 50 single family homes. And it was going to take us we had a plan to get there in about 10 years. And
Wow.
we
Okay.
said to ourselves, we got to find another way. That's going to take too long,
Sure.
and it's going to take too much effort for us to get there. What's another way to do that? And I wanted to add this point, and you mentioned YouTube or videos in particular. In that time of listening to Keith's podcast, of course, that brought me down the rabbit hole. I started listening to or reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I
Mhm.
started getting exposed to other things and video content that was starting to introduce new concepts to me that I wasn't familiar with, but I became very interested in. And that's when I actually, in one of Keith's interviews, he was talking to someone who actually was talking about investing in passive real estate syndications. And at that point in
Okay.
time, that blew my mind.
Passive real estate. I don't even know what that is. What is a passive real estate syndication? Please
So
educate me.
this is exactly what I said too. When I'm here, I'm like, what in the world is a passive real estate
Sure.
syndication?
Sure.
So in short, a real estate syndication is just simply investors pooling their money together to buy an asset larger than what they would be able to do on their own. So imagine you're in your neighborhood. You probably, in addition to the residential single family residential homes that are in your neighborhood, you probably are familiar with all the apartment complexes that are around there. There's those beautiful garden style apartment complexes with the pool. They got the dog park on there. They have all the different amenities there. People pool their money together to invest in these types of properties. And instead of doing that on a single family home, if you think about it, instead of that, they're just investing in someone else's in opportunity, which is the syndication, and then they get to share in all of the proceeds from that, the cash
So,
flows, tax benefits, etc.
so it sounds great, and I know a lot of these. In fact, a lot of people have approached me with, "Hey, we got this group. We're buying all these properties. Invest with us, and we can take you places." And then I've heard of people doing that and it not working out so
Yeah.
well. How do you know who's legit, who's not? What makes sense? What doesn't? What guides you?
Yeah. Well, I would say this, first, everyone has different reasons why they want to get into this. I think that's before you even get to who to invest with, you need to understand why you're investing. For us, our point of view, for my wife and I, was focusing on building generational wealth. We were focusing on diversification of our portfolio, not having everything that we earn in the stock market, those types of things. And so once we figured out our why, that's when we started to look at the different ways that we wanted to get into these things. And what one of the things that was important and that we learned through this process, and as I was going through it, was that it's something called due diligence is really important. And what I mean by that is being able to check out the people that are making these offers to you. Who are they? What's their background? What's their track record? What experiences do they have? These are all very important things to be able to learn and understand before you one would go and explore getting into those things like references, very much similar things to what anyone getting into the medical sales space. Before you join that company's doing their due diligence. They're interviewing you. You're going into those interviews, you're bringing your best self. That's all fine and well. And then after that, if they're confident that you're the guy or gal, they're going to start to pick up the phone and make some, hey, what about this person? All those types of things. It's a similar concept when it comes to who you invest with from a real estate perspective.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional, or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.